Little known fact about J.R.R. Tolkien is that he heavily disliked Walt Disney, his works, and the Walt Disney Company as a whole. In fact,
Hmm.
not only did he explicitly state that he never wants Disney to ever adapt his writings, but in
Hmm.
some of his letters he openly states his disgust and loathing of Disney's animations. This may come as a shock, and so in this video we'll explore precisely why Tolkien hated Disney.
Hmm.
Did you ever hear that, like, I don't know if it's Tolkien, because I think J.R.R. was dead, but, like, his son did not like the Peter Jackson movies?
I never heard that. Like they're universally like praised for being
Not
great
from
movies.
Christopher Tolkien,
What
the
did he
heir
say?
apparent. He said they were too that like they lost sort of the magic of
Hmm.
what his father was trying to create, and he said he made them into action movies. He didn't like the fact that they were too much into action.
Hmm.
I don't know.
I
I love the Peter Jackson movies, but
yeah.
apparently Christopher Tolkien had said something about, yeah, they're like it's what would you say, like just like Hollywood trying to turn a work of fiction into just an action franchise.
Almost like a commodificate or over commodification of it.
Yeah, I think that would be a nice way to put it.
I gotcha.
Did you feel that way while watching?
I mean, I've never read the book, so I can't. I tried reading the first one. I got maybe like halfway through it. And it was very dense. And I was probably like in my mid-teens, so I think some of it was lost on me.
Did you read
But
Atlas Shrugged
yeah, I did.
from beginning to end?
Yeah,
And Lord of
I
the
read
Rings is
down.
too dense.
I read Atlas Shrugged later on in my 20s.
Okay, you're a better man than me, because I tried reading Atlas Shrugged, but I thought it was boring. I didn't like it.
I enjoyed it. I actually did enjoy it.
Okay, but back to Tolkien.
Yeah, and interesting. He doesn't like the animation. He must.
Oh, with
It must.
Disney?
Yeah, it must be too Hollywood for him. Like he's the original. Like I don't know.
Oh,
If
here's
I
a
mean,
thought. Like, do you think Tolkien was, uh, let's say, like the Shire, right? Think of the Shire. Is Tolkien like his paradise? Is the Shire simplicity?
okay.
I think that Tolkien wrote I think he actually put this in one of his notes, but like the Shire is like his metaphor for England. How he saw England as a boy, like just like this like little perfect villages and quiet, peaceful living. And
I could see that.
he thought of Mordor as industrialization. Because even
Okay,
when you watch,
Scotland or Northern
no,
England.
just like no, like more like London. You can think like the industrialization.
Oh.
So you think of it like try to separate like English villages from like sort of like more industrial like urbanization in cities.
Yeah,
So think
yeah.
of English villages, the Shire, and that's his paradise, his dream. And he saw Mordor as a metaphor for like urbanization and industrialization. And when you watch the
Interesting.
movies, like what are they doing? They're tearing down trees. They're burning it for like fuel to create this army of Urukai.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that
Um,
was like I think, and I'm pretty sure we could fact check this if we want to, but I think J.R.R. Tolkien would explicitly say that Mordor was like sort of like his version of industrialization. That the Shire is pre-industrialized Europe, not Europe, England.
well, and I don't think Disney would ever kind of capture that. I think only his book could really capture that if you really like kind of dive into the details and get to know the author as the person.
Maybe, yeah. Do you know much
Um,
about Tolkien overall?
I know something. I know he's a religious person.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, what else do I
So,
know? I knew about the language thing.
uh huh.
Um,
Did you know he
I
was
was
generally against progress?
okay.
He always dreamed that the past was better than the present or future. And that's like what I'm saying. Like I think the Shire is a metaphor for his idea of a paradise. A
Mhm.
simple town village of people who live modest means, and that Mordor, the army and the growth is industrialization.
The perpetual motion machine of industrialization.
Yeah, just create more and more and more mass consumption, mass production. He didn't like any of that, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, his son though must have handed the rights over to what Peter Jackson's production company to make the movies. So
Yeah, that's
I
right.
wonder if he was against the movie. He must have.
I don't
I
think
mean,
he
I'm sure
liked the
they
way they
showed
turned out.
him.
I
Yeah.
think you can sort of sign on to a project as saying like I trust it's in good hands, but still not be happy with the way it turns out.
Yeah, that's true.
What do you think?
Hollywood, being Hollywood, will probably remake Lord of the Rings eventually.
They did.
They already did in those ones, yeah. From the
So I
animated
didn't watch
films.
Rings of Power. What were your general thoughts on Rings of Power?
Started out slow. I was kind of liking it towards the end. We'll see. There should be a second season, I imagine, but after that, I know Amazon's poured so much money into it, it's probably not getting back what it wants. But
I think so. I think it wasn't like their most expensive show ever produced. I think it might be the
by
single
far, yeah.
most expensive show ever produced of any platform or film company or something.
I think like Bezos said, if this isn't like successful, then Amazon needs to rethink its like streaming.
Yeah. I would say it's a huge fucking money laundering scheme because like from what I've seen from like just memes, once again, I have not watched Rings of Power, but I've saw like side by side comparisons of like costumes and set design from like this is like $400 million and this is $4 million. How the hell? Where did all the money go? Did it look that way? Did it look like a cheap set? Cheap production?
It had that kind of like TV kind of like expensive feel to it, not like a movie feel.
Kind of like what's the one EW kind of not what EW what like maybe it's EW CW kind of dramas like Supernatural.
No,
No?
not quite that. It's just like it felt more. It a lot of CGI, which I know the original Lord of the Rings had, and it's hard to not do in those movies. But yeah,
I still would buy that Gollum is completely.
It didn't have that epic feeling that the Lord of the Rings did.
Maybe it's building up.
Maybe we'll see in the next.
I don't know enough about the source material. I remember hearing something about like the amount of material that they were allowed to work with because they didn't have the rights to the full Silmarillion. They're dealing with like basically like basically a 1-page summary is their sort of wiggle room in terms of like source material they're allowed to work with.
It's kind of like George R.R. Martin giving like the final outlines of how to finish Game of Thrones.
Oh God, that is not an endorsement.
I am not endorsing the series.
Okay.
But if you like the other Rings, check it out.
Okay. See, I think it's funny that I think like George R.R. Martin was basically, this is my trial run. I want to see how people react to this story before I write it down for my final book.
I can't imagine any other scenario, or that's why he hasn't finished the books.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I think that's why. I think it's probably because like he was testing the waters. He was like, okay, I don't know if this is a good ending or not, so I'm gonna write down the ending. I'm gonna let these guys produce it and see how fans react, and then I'll write it down. And yet it was a horror show where no one was happy, and he's like, fuck, now I gotta come up with a whole new ending.
Yeah, he kind of like felt where the story was going in his head, and then it's such a negative reaction. He has to like rethink everything.
Oh yeah. All right, let's